to do with the support and love and encouragement that has surrounded me since a child, an incredible circle of support with my parents and now my husband. I think just knowing that you're loved and you have something to fight for has been huge in my life. And I think being grounded in gratitude, I just have that is the core of who I am, of just being grateful for every precious day and this perspective that all of these health issues have given me. A huge part that has helped me fight through all of this is being an advocate for myself and others. I've shared my story at over 100 events across North America, and I'm being the I'm striving to be a role model that I wish I had when I was younger. If I think back to that child in middle school and teenager going through high school, I didn't have anybody to look to. I didn't have a young woman living a joyful, productive life that could give me hope that you can live a fulfilling life with PKD. And I didn't have that vision in front of me or somebody to look up to. And I don't want anybody else to feel like that. So that's what I'm striving to do with this journey. And I think that in turn has been really, really therapeutic for me to be a patient advocate and to help give that hope to other people, which you just desperately need when you're going through things. You know, if I think back to being super sick, if somebody would have told me, you know, in your like mid 30s, you're going to be healthy and loving life despite all the challenges you're going through, it was hard to envision and imagine that, which then makes it amazing if you can have that person to be that image for you. And I'm that's what my hope is through sharing my story, is to share the education of what I've gone through. And in turn, it's really inspiring and helps me to keep moving forward in a positive way. Um, I think, you know, today, the world, resilience is so important right now. It's the past several years before my liver transplant was really secluded and was really sick and at home all the time. And right before COVID happened, I was like the best version of myself that I've been in a long time. I was back to traveling and doing speaking events. And then all of a sudden it came to a complete halt when COVID came into all of our lives. And for me, it's really hard as high risk to live so secluded again. I'm really grateful to be healthy and have that fear and weight lifted off of my shoulders of death so close to me every day, of wondering if I'd survive to the next day. But it's really hard not to see family, friends, and be so removed from the world, but we all are to different degrees. I think I I always strive to find the good during challenges and times like these, and still find whatever joy that I can to get through day to day. So since COVID has happened, I feel like some some of the, I guess, coping mechanisms that I've learned through my health journey, I'm trying to apply to my day-to-day life right now during a pandemic. And for my husband and I, we really love nature and it's so therapeutic for us. And we recently bought an old RV to try and safely get us to get out in the world and be able to be away from people, but still striving to live this fulfilling life. Because for me to thank my organ donors and blood donors, I want to do that through action. I want to show them that no matter whether I'm going through a transplant or health issues or a pandemic, that I am appreciating their gifts and living the best life that I can, to be able to thank them for their selflessness. I know that it's really hard on all of us. And talking to Vicky and knowing the changes that you guys have had to do in your careers, and to make sure that there is blood available for our community when you can't do the normal blood drives, is just really touching to know your dedication and what you've had to do in addition to your personal and home lives, but now really working extra hard for people like myself, that when we're in need, we're going to have access to what we need in order to keep living. And I just wanted you to know that I'm so grateful for your hard work and dedication, and that um, just how appreciated that you are, and to be able to speak on behalf, not just myself, but for all the blood donors and or the blood recipients out there, because I'm sure they feel the same and they don't have opportunities like this to express their gratitude. And so this really means a lot that you're willing to take time out of your day to hear my story. And I hope that it shows how important all of you are and the difference that you're making on a day-to-day basis and lives, because I'm honestly alive today because of the kindness of others, and that is so important every day, and especially in the world right now of how much kindness matters. And I just deeply want to express my gratitude for you, and thank you for being willing to hear my story.
So, Valen, this is Vicki. You said that you wanted to take some questions?
Sure, yeah, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay. So I know I've already primed a few people, but I can start off. I would just say, physically, what's your life like now? Because don't transplant recipients have to take a lot of like anti-rejection drugs, and you said you had high blood pressure. So what's your medication regimen looking like?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. That's wonderful to talk about that aspect of it. I usually it's just really good to be able to educate on that aspect, because I get a lot that when people find out that I have a transplant, like a couple weeks ago, they say, so you're cured or you're good now. And the wonderful thing is that transplantation is a treatment for us, but they don't last forever. So I feel so lucky to have a kidney transplant for 18 years. And now being a dual transplant recipient, it's a lot to juggle, and especially with different organs. So I take about 17 pills a day, but actually that's really great because I was taking around 30 pills a day when I was really sick before my liver transplant. I take meds 3 times a day, and honestly, it's just a part of my life, and it's easy. I organize them every 2 weeks and then go through all the meds to see what I need to reorder. I check my blood pressure every day and, alter meds according to that. I've done that, basically all my life since I was a kid. And right now it's just, we have to be super careful with the suppressed immune system. Like right now it's really scary to be a transplant recipient. And then outside of living with COVID and in a pandemic, you still have to be really careful because our bodies we respond differently. Even through different illnesses, my body hasn't acted like a normal person that's not suppressed. And so that's kind of the regimen with meds and taking blood pressure, and the concern and having to be really careful, like the whole washing hands a lot and masks and all that was our life. So, that's very familiar to us as far as what the rest of the world's doing right now. You just have to, you have to be careful and just really diligent as a patient. If you have any type of side effects or symptoms of any kind, it's really important to engage with your healthcare team because it can be very severe. And for me, if I get a fever, I have to immediately go to the hospital. If I'm throwing up, it's really scary because I'm throwing up my meds. So us getting sick, even like a common cold or a flu, could be life and death versus a person that can recover at home with that. But with all that said, we didn't get the gift of life to live in a bubble. So I've really strived to navigate that and manage and make sure that I'm still living a very happy and fulfilling life while taking the best care of myself.
That's great, Valen. So here's another question.
Hi, Valen. My name's Janan, and I'm not sure if you said where your kidney came from. If you did say it and I missed it, I apologize, but I was curious to where your kidney came from.
Oh, sure. As far as the person or the place that I got it?
the person and the place.
Okay, I received my kidney from, her name's Sally, and she's a good friend of the family. I met her in 8th grade because I grew up and was friends with her daughter in middle school and high school. And she stepped forward and was just really called to be my donor and wound up being a wonderful match. And it's wonderful to have a living donor because everything's a celebration. I keep very close in contact with her, and it's so fun to celebrate milestones and even have her support during the challenging times, like when I went through the liver transplant. And at that time, I grew up in Pennsylvania. So we've only been in California for the past 10 years. So I had that transplant at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland. And it was done by Dr. Robert Montgomery, who's a world renowned transplant surgeon. And he took the risk of transplanting me when I was technically in too sick of a state to get the transplant. I was too sick to be put on the transplant waiting list, but he said he wasn't going to let a 19-year-old die. So he took the risk to transplant me, and because of him and Sally, I am here today. And it's wonderful having a living donor. And then my liver donor actually it's a deceased donor, and then I traveled to Barnes Jewish Hospital to get that transplant and wound up only having to wait a week, which was just miraculous.
Hey, Valen.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. And so we have another question about what your blood type is.
I am O positive, and I am fascinated by the fact that I was able to get so many blood transfusions and not build up antibodies and be able to get a transplant and do so well. So I don't know if any of you are educated on that, but I've always been curious at the fact that I could get so many blood transfusions and then do so well getting a transplant.
Valen, I had the same thing happen with me. And most people do develop antibodies, but I had 300 transfusions and I didn't develop antibodies. Pretty strange. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wondered, like, is that rare? Because I always felt it has to be a bit rare that I didn't have any issues with antibodies and have to do like plasmapheresis or anything like that and wound up doing great. I guess we'll consider we're the lucky ones.
Yeah, I have to ask our HLA lab about that. Let me see if there's any other questions. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, Valen, that's it. So everybody here is, nodding and very, involved in the story that you shared. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And so glad you're doing well today. And I didn't actually share a story that you shared your story with the clothing company Good Human. And I just happened to order a sweater from them, and each item of clothing comes with a story, and the one that I got was your story. And I know it was random, but it's just amazing. So thank you. Godspeed, good health always, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vicki. I appreciate the opportunity, and I wish that I could see all of you face to face, but please know I greatly appreciate you listening to my story, and I'm so thankful for all of you.